5 seconds to the open.
Ready?
Who wants to get this thing started right about now?
Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly with your host, Jerry Robinson.
Welcome.
Not just some guru.
Oh, really?
Your host is an economist and a best-selling author.
What an interesting news item. I'd better write that down.
And just someone who likes to make money and help you to make money. Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly. And here he is, Jerry Robinson.
Friends, welcome to episode number 478 of the Follow the Money podcast. My name is Jerry Robinson. It's great to have you here today. We have a very good episode lined up. Today's episode entitled The AI Revolution. Specifically, we're talking about Operation Stargate and the $500 billion AI investment boom. Now, unless you've been off the grid, you know that this last week was pretty historic. President Trump was inaugurated for his second term, and the guest list at the White House was a who's who of Silicon Valley titans. We had Sam Altman from OpenAI. We had the CEO of SoftBank. We had Larry Ellison from Oracle. Of course, there were also the CEOs and founders of various big tech companies like Amazon and Facebook and Alphabet and even Apple at the inauguration. And then just yesterday, on Tuesday, January the 21st, we learned about a groundbreaking announcement regarding U.S. investment into artificial intelligence known as Operation Stargate. It's a multi-billion-dollar initiative that's going to pour hundreds of billions of dollars into building out America's AI infrastructure over the next 4 years. So it's a massive bet on the future of artificial intelligence. And on today's episode, we're going to unpack what it means for investors like you. So in segment one, we're going to focus in more on what's actually going on. What is this Operation Stargate and why is it so important? And then in the second segment, I'll share some of the top AI investment themes that you can focus on in 2025. I'll share a few of my own favorites and some of the ones that I own. And then we'll wrap it all up with some concluding thoughts and a final word in segment three. So buckle up. This is going to be an episode packed with insights and actionable ideas and inspiration to help you kick off your investing journey as we head into the remainder of 2025. So let's get started. Well, on January 21st, 2025, just one day after President Donald J. Trump's second inauguration, the White House unveiled Operation Stargate, calling it the largest AI infrastructure project in history. They're kicking it off with a $100 billion commitment, but they're going to ramp up the investment to $500 billion by 2029 if everything goes according to plans. So this is clearly a massive public-private partnership into the investment, of course, of artificial intelligence that's going to really build out the physical and digital backbone that will fuel AI breakthroughs over the next decade and even more. And of course, you just can't hope that everything's just going to work out. You have to build data centers, right? So obviously, AI is coming at us fast and furious. Many other nations are trying to get the pole position in this very innovative space. And so therefore, the United States is, attempting to do all that it can to maintain a leadership role in AI. In fact, it's pretty important that the country does this. So they got to build out data centers, right? They got to invest in GPUs, and they need to upgrade power grids. They have to train a skilled workforce. We're talking about 100,000 hires. They're going to have to sort out governance of how the ethics of AI is going to work before anything runs off the rails, And so Operation Stargate is really promising to tackle all of these challenges simultaneously. So let's clear out some of the confusion at first. If you've been reading about this, I spent, quite a bit of time trying to get my arms around what's actually going on. And if you do a quick Google search, of course, for Stargate, you're going to see an old movie. Anybody remember the old movie, the science fiction movie Stargate? Well, we're not talking about that here, of course. Operation Stargate is a joint venture, as I had talked about, formed by OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle. They also have technology, alliances with Microsoft, NVIDIA, ARM Holdings, some other companies. And you have the CEO of SoftBank acting as the chairman You have Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, which is behind ChatGPT. He's going to be leading the operational strategy of the operation. And then Larry Ellison from Oracle is going to be playing a role in the infrastructure and enterprise side of the project. Now, what this plan is really doing is it's kind of playing out some of the vision that was cast by Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, who had begun talking about these AI factories, which would actually be behind much of the rise of AI. And so the initiative's immediate goal is to construct these really large AI-focused data centers, which, again, Huang calls AI factories, and they want to build them across multiple states, but they want to begin with Texas. And over the next 4 years, they plan to funnel, upwards of $500 billion into, building data centers, managing the AI workloads. And of course, when you think about the $500 billion investment, that's, a national budget in some parts of the world. So this kind of money is intended to create over 100,000 jobs here in the United States, really seeking also, I think, to revitalize certain states and certain regions. This is probably going to be used for revitalization efforts as well, but mainly to push the United States ahead in the ongoing battle for AI supremacy, in the what we might call the AI race, if you will. But, when you think about the word Stargate, I was looking this up, why do they call it Stargate? Well, the name was originally used for a internal Microsoft OpenAI project that started in 2024 that was focused on this large-scale AI supercomputing. But now with President Trump in the White House, it appears that they are going to pull out all the stops. We've already seen executive orders issued to fast-track energy infrastructure. There's already been a national energy emergency order placed. That's going to basically cut a lot of the red tape to get a lot of these structures built. And then they're also going to relax certain regulations that would prevent the building process or hang up the building process. So it appears that the Trump administration has planned for this through the executive orders, and things are going to be moving at a pretty rapid clip, it appears. And that's one thing I think that many people often overlook is how hungry that artificial intelligence is, especially the generative AI that we've been using in recent months here in the United States and globally, about how hungry that artificial intelligence is for electricity. If you just train a single large language model, a single LLM, it can consume more electricity than some small towns do in an entire year. And if you think about Stargate's ambitions, you're going to have to multiply that, manyfold. I mean, consider Texas. The project's first wave is happening in Texas, but Texas is known for a strong tradition of data center builds, but we all remember issues with ERCOT, which is a Texas grid operator, under strain, particularly in the extreme weather. So you got 10 new data centers, under construction, and each one of them drawing tens of megawatts. And the question is, can the Texas grid hold, for that time? I used to live in Texas. I remember sometimes in the extreme weather, even in the heat, ERCOT, they would often be struggling. So it'll be a challenge, I think, for the Texas power supply, and I'm sure they're obviously aware of that. But then you also have benefits in terms of other energy in the energy mix. So what about nuclear or renewable energy? Nuclear power is one of the few sources that can provide a consistent baseload without, creating all of these carbon emissions that are a problem for the environment. And renewables like solar energy, of course, and wind are also part of the mix, but they're intermittent. So you've got a tension. You want this stable 24/7 energy source that's climate friendly, but you also have a big investor in SoftBank who, shaped by the post-Fukushima caution in Japan, has hesitated on nuclear. So SoftBank is, kind of pumping the brakes on nuclear energy. We'll have to see how that's all going to work out. If they don't resolve that tension soon, then you could see some delays, or they just may rely more on fossil fuels. But we'll see. Also, as I mentioned, the White House has been promoting emergency declarations, like an energy emergency, which Trump just created through a executive order. And by doing that, they're in essence able to cut a lot of the red tape, to quickly expand power lines, build new power plants without all of the burdens of, all of the red tape, the regulatory requirements and all of this. So, if you're an investor, realize that right now there's the expectation that there won't be a lot of red tape. But if there is any red tape, that could slow things down, could slow down the rollout, or even raise the project costs. Now, one of the big deals, I think, here for Stargate is the headline that promises 100,000 new American jobs. And these are, pretty powerful jobs. We're talking about data center engineers and AI researchers. I mean, lots of skilled trades as well. They're going to need lots of electricians and welders and HVAC techs and, many different specialized areas. So these are going to be some good jobs. And quite frankly, from what I understand, there's just not enough, good AI, engineers and data center, engineers to go around here in the United States. Stargate is aiming to partner with universities, community colleges, basically to develop some sort of accelerated AI and data center programs for folks to go through. And we're also seeing, many workers from traditional manufacturing, industries, even oil and gas, they might transition into data center roles if they have the right training. So some of these jobs are going to come probably from existing industries. Others are going to have to be trained. But now, we can't ignore the global context here. I mean, obviously, China has poured billions of dollars into artificial intelligence, and it's claimed top spots in AI patent filings. I mean, if you look at what China's been doing in the AI space, it is pretty crazy. So the U.S. is responding with an all-in approach through this Stargate project. And really what's at stake is who's going to control the data, who's going to control the technology that can shape entire industries, from advanced medical research to autonomous weapons systems. I mean, it's been said that AI can be more dangerous than nuclear weapons. It's hard to imagine, but in some ways, perhaps we could imagine it. Now, as we watch the Trump administration play this out with AI, if the new administration plays hardball with tariffs, that could slow down China's advanced tech exports. You see, there's a little bit of a chess game here when it comes to tariffs on China, is the fact that what they're trying to do, of course, is stymie China's progress by limiting what they can have access to, limiting their access to NVIDIA chips, for example, especially the top tier, and slapping tariffs on them and not allowing certain exports and all of these things. On the flip side, of course, these trade disputes could also restrict vital hardware imports from Asia. So if China wants to play hardball, of course, that could also lead to some supply chain components that we don't have readily available here that we could be in a pickle for. So the point is we've heard that President Trump is seeking to meet with President Xi Jinping in China, or of China. We'll see where they're going to meet, but it sounds like they're both open to that. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail, and we will see collaboration here in some way. And also, this is obviously bringing us to the point of where is the best place to invest given all of this. I believe that companies that embrace AI early are going to see exponential growth, and the same is going to go for their shareholders, right? So as we look over the next 3 to 5 years, there's no doubt in my mind that AI is going to dominate the global economy. There's going to be lots of opportunities for those who are prepared. And we're just at the very beginning of the whole story. So it's very interesting. So after this break, I want to talk about some of the different areas that are available to invest in when it comes to AI. And I want to share some of my own favorite stocks in the space and even talk about some of the ones that I own. That some of these companies that I think that are leading the charge in this transformative space. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Follow the Money Weekly. And here's Jerry Robinson.
Well, friends, welcome back to one of the longest running personal finance podcasts in the world. Follow the Money Podcast, available online, followthemoney.com. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast outfits, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're out there. And now, today, in this second segment, what I want to do is I want to get into some investment opportunities, because obviously we see that there's an exciting thing happening now. with the advent of AI, of course, but now with the Operation Stargate, and we have money moving into this space, well, it's kind of telling us that this is where we're going to be finding opportunity, right? We're talking about $100 billion committed upfront with the potential to ramp up to $500 billion. That's $500 billion over the next 4 years. I mean, that money is going into AI data centers, advanced hardware, new software platforms, and everything else that ties in to support them. I mean, you got energy infrastructure, you got specialized employee training, workforce training. So you've got all kinds of areas that are going to be touched by this. Essentially, it's like this giant funnel of capital that's coursing through the entire AI ecosystem, right? And so where exactly should investors be looking? That's a question that, makes sense that we would ask. If you're looking at this ambitious $500 billion blueprint to, help create a leadership role for the United States going forward in terms of AI, where should we look? Well, the most obvious, I think, and probably the first area to consider is the semiconductor, right? And hardware, just the hardware that runs this AI revolution. And that is, of course, the beating heart of AI. It may seem strange, but every single advanced AI system relies upon specialized silicon. So with Stargate, we're anticipating this massive bump in the demand for high-end chips, and for networking gear. And then, of course, for storage solutions. So all of these companies that have been, working, building out these very great solutions are now in a place to really benefit greatly as we accelerate into the world of AI. So the very first company you have to talk about is NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA, ticker symbol NVDA. We've talked about this one extensively, especially with our members and students. It's one that we own for the long term, and we've seen a very good return on it. Of course, as you can imagine, it's been a great leader for us in terms of our long-term investment portfolio, but we continue to hold the stock. We expect that it's going to continue to do very well, even at its current size. Its market cap is enormous. However, we think it's going to continue to do well in the years ahead, especially throughout the rest of the 20s, out to 2029. So, as Operation Stargate begins to put out new data centers and build them out, who's likely to benefit? Well, the folks who sell them the hardware, right? That's NVIDIA. You've also got names like Advanced Micro Devices to AMD. It's historically played second fiddle in graphics to NVIDIA, but it's gained market share in both CPUs and GPUs, and if it keeps improving its data center offerings, like the Instinct line for AI training that it's recently released, it could also ride this wave in a big way. There's also another name that's a little more controversial, Intel, ticker symbol INTC. It's really struggled a bit in the high-performance GPU race, but it's still a giant in terms of GPU or CPUs, I should say. And they're also working on some specialized AI accelerators. So we could see Intel get some new life if they can stay competitive in this space. And then, of course, you've got, memory and storage. When it comes to memory, Micron Technology, ticker symbol MU, comes to mind. It's really dominates that space of, memory and lightning-fast storage. Then you have networking and connectivity. So data centers need, cutting-edge networking. So companies like Arista Networks, ANET, A-N-E-T, will be certainly in demand for their high-speed data center switching, or Cisco, ticker symbol CSCO, for networking gear. I remember Cisco way back in the 90s, and wow, I mean, it had a really big run and then, kind of fizzled out. So it's interesting to see Cisco popping up now with AI. Then also, we think of foundries and fabrication for these semiconductors. Initially, the world's leading contract chip manufacturer comes to mind. That's Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, TSM. I mean, they're critical for producing advanced AI chips. And then you have global foundries. GFS is the ticker. That's another foundry worth watching, I think. Although it's certainly not as advanced as Taiwan Semiconductor, it could still pick up some demand. Now, we also have another area to think about. So obviously the hardware, we've kind of gone through that. The next area would be cloud and data and enterprise software. So once you have all the hardware in place, then the next level up is the software stack, right? The operating systems, the AI frameworks, the data analytics layers that are actually going to harness all that computing power. And so you have some cloud titans that just immediately come to mind, like Microsoft, right? They're already tied in greatly with OpenAI's infrastructure. And if Stargate's data centers run alongside or integrate with existing cloud frameworks, then Microsoft's Azure might see, a big increase in its usage. Plus, they might, develop some new AI solutions. So I think Microsoft is just a big winner here, ticker symbol MSFT. Also, one of my favorite plays in the space is Amazon, ticker symbol AMZ, and I own Amazon for the long term. AWS remains huge. And right now, the Stargate partnership is really more focused upon Oracle. But there's no reason why Amazon can't pick up new AI workloads from companies that aim to interconnect with Stargate. So I think Amazon's pretty well positioned. And I think you have to mention Oracle too, ORCL. It's already up pretty nice in the wake of the announcement. It's a major partner in the project. So the more Stargate invests in data center build-outs, the more Oracle's cloud and database solutions are going to get integrated, right? So they're going to be a big winner, obviously. You also have enterprise AI, as I had mentioned, in analytics. It's a couple of companies that come to mind immediately. Palantir, PLTR. They're known for their data analytics in defense and government. And if Stargate prioritizes national security applications, which I'm sure they will, then Palantir could certainly benefit there. Also, another company that I really like, I don't own, but ServiceNow. Their ticker is NOW. They specialize in workflow automation, and large enterprises are going to need solutions to manage all the new capabilities that they're going to be unleashed through Stargate. And so ServiceNow, I think, is very well positioned to benefit from that. You also have to warehouse data. So I think of Snowflake. It's a company that I like, I don't own, but I have considered buying some Snowflake. It's been beaten down so much, and I think this could be a great year for these software companies. But Snowflake, ticker symbol SNOW, a cloud data platform focused upon scalable data analytics. So as AI data sets grow bigger, you might see them looking towards Snowflake. They got to store and query these massive volumes of information that they're creating. And then we turn to infrastructure and construction. We might think of companies certainly in the real estate investment trust space. That's the one I'm going to think of immediately is REITs. And there's two REITs that immediately come to mind. My favorite REIT is Equinix. It's been my favorite REIT for many, many years, specializing in operating data centers. And then there's another REIT as well, Digital Realty Trust, DLR. Both of these, I think both very well equipped to handle these data centers, to grow them, to expand them in certain regions, and to manage them well. So I think they're very well positioned. Obviously, there's some industrial plays we could think of too in the construction and engineering space. Some of these firms that might benefit, electric power infrastructure firms like Quanta could also benefit. And then you have, energy and utilities. Stargate is planning to include 10 data centers in Texas alone, and that's going to guzzle lots of megawatts, right? It's going to require lots. And if you multiply that across various states, well, you're going to see why the industry, the energy sector, is so crucial here. When it comes to power generation, there's a few names that I like. Next Era Energy, ticker symbol NEE, that's a leader in renewables, which could supply part of the energy mix. And then also Constellation Energy, CEG. I really like that name in terms of being a utility that could certainly partner with some of these firms. And then also the nuclear space. The U.S. nuclear industry is kind of a patchwork of operators. You have all these different kinds of operators, Exelon, and you have some other next-gen nuclear startups that are mostly private for now. There's a few public, but if Operation Stargate embraces nuclear for stable baseload power, I think we could see a lot of newly announced joint ventures in that space, and that could really drive some value for those investing in the nuclear energy space. You've also got some specialized AI players. I don't really want to get into too many of those. You could think of a few in the space. I think of C3 AI, ticker symbol AI, pretty good ticker. They're an enterprise AI solution provider. They integrate big data with large-scale analytics. You can also think of companies that use AI for whatever they're doing, like, for example, Upstart, UPST, provides AI-driven lending. So that's pretty interesting as well. And then you have, just ripple effects across the broader economy. So it's not just these companies that are going to be directly involved or even tangentially involved. You're also going to have other areas just getting impacted. I mean, think about consumer technology. If AI becomes more efficient and cost effective, then consumer apps are going to start integrating all these advanced features. And then when they do, that's going to help companies like Meta Platforms or Apple, which I own Apple for the long term. And, I think those are companies that could certainly benefit. You could also see, educational firms doing well as they train and staff many of these jobs that are coming. So obviously, that's kind of the big picture. If you're an investor eyeing the Stargate effect, if you will, there's plenty of ways to consider this. You can look at how the Stargate effect will affect all of these different, industries. But, it's not just about AI. It's about all of the things that go into it and make it happen. So kind of think through that. If you're an investor out there, you're trying to figure out where to go to really invest in this. Obviously, there's lots of ETFs that give you exposure to the AI space as well, which I think is a pretty smart idea. Now, let's start wrapping this up. Now that we've talked about some of the areas we can invest, I want to stay grounded. And I want to talk just real quickly about some of the challenges and criticisms, for AI. Because as an investor, you want to be smart about this. And you realize that there are concerns about AI. One is, the concerns that the more we build, the more we're going to need stable, large-scale power sources, right? And renewables alone might not cut it, right? Unless we see battery storage dramatically improve, and I don't see that happening anytime immediately. Nuclear is contentious, but it could really be a game changer. I really do think that might be the solution, but we'll have to see. So there's concerns about energy shortfalls. We're already, pretty stretched on power demand and power supply. And with this, new demand, it's just going to require, us to be patient as we build this out. Also, we can think about the ethics that are involved here, right? You have lots of big corporations involved, SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and then you also have the U.S. government. And, are they going to oversee? Are they going to regulate? What's that regulation going to look like? What's allowed? What's not allowed? What if these kinds of technologies fall into the wrong hands? All these questions that arise. And these are questions that are very thorny and tough, and they're going to have to be addressed. And then, of course, we have to worry about the global situation. Of course, when I say they fall into wrong hands, I mean, the more powerful this AI gets, not only could it fall into wrong hands, it could just fall into other state actor, hands. And then you run the risk of having, much bigger confrontations. And so we'll just have to see how it all plays out. The key here, I think, for this to really work out well is for there to be plenty of transparency. And I don't know if we can plan on that. I don't know if that's something that we can count on. But hopefully that's what we're going to see as we go forward. Now, let me just kind of lay out what the next 5 years are expected to look like as we move into this AI revolution. So 2025 and 2026, we're expected to see through this Operation Stargate, it looks like we're going to see rapid construction of these data centers in Texas. We're going to see them go live, ideally by 2026. They're going to have high performance computing capabilities. We'll probably see major press announcements around these pilot programs. We may see an advanced GPT model that's 2 or 3 times bigger than ChatGPT now. We may even see a breakthrough in machine translation. So that's by 2026. As we head out to 2027, we see this expanding to other states. You might start hearing about partnerships with local universities and trade schools. Might hear about the first nuclear-based data center if SoftBank's reservations are addressed. Or you might just see more parties come into the agreement and the partnership and just kind of bring nuclear energy with it. By the time we get to 2027, 2028, that's kind of in the project's midlife, and by this time we expect multiple large data centers to be fully operational. We expect to see thousands of people employed, if everything goes according to plan. And then we'll also see a huge jump in new AI-based services. We're talking about things like advanced autonomous vehicles, much quicker drug discoveries, much more effective healthcare diagnosis, and so. There's just lots more down the pike that people are expecting. Then when we finally get to 2029, it's where we get toward the $500 billion mark. That's about the time that China's AI plan might come into a sharper view. So Operation Stargate is really designed to keep the U.S. ahead, right? Innovating, to stay ahead, to secure leadership on multiple AI frontiers, including, general intelligence, which is considered to kind of be the goal. Of course, you also have super intelligence, which is kind of sci-fi now, but it could arrive in the future. But, technology doesn't stand still. And by 2029, we might be talking about advanced quantum computing for all I know. I mean, who knows where we're going to be in 4 years? Who thought we would be where we are now, right? Stargate's success is really going to depend on how future-proof these data centers and R&D efforts can be. There you have it. AI is not a short-term trend. It is, in my opinion, a generational shift, right? We're living through a major generational shift right now. And investing in the AI is going to require patience, and you're going to need to have a long-term perspective. Take advantage of those, sell-offs as they come. The companies that we've talked about here, many of them are leaders in their space. And if you're positioned in them well, and you have a long enough time horizon, they could really lead to some significant rewards, in our opinion. So when we return, I'm going to wrap up today's episode. I'll give you some final thoughts, and we'll wrap up today's episode. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Well, friends, welcome back to the final moments of today's broadcast. We've talked quite a bit today about the future of AI. And of course, we do believe that whether you're looking at semiconductors or cloud platforms or enterprise software, the stakes are high, of course, but we believe the possible rewards are even higher. There's lots of good companies we talked about today. We've explored some different themes in the AI space. And, it's clear that we're entering an era now that's based upon technological innovation. AI is going to reshape not just industries, but it's going to reshape how we live, how we work, and even how we invest. And there's a lot of excitement here, but in that excitement, I believe it's important and essential, quite frankly, to maintain perspective because AI represents one of the most transformative forces of our time. But as we mentioned, it also brings challenges that go beyond economics, that go beyond technology. They move into the realm of ethics. And that brings me to our final word. It's a quote from Sidney Harris when he said, "The real danger is not that computers will begin to think like men, but that men will begin to think like computers." That seems to be an important insight and especially relevant as we head into this new year. The AI revolution undoubtedly offers immense potential, but it also challenges us to retain our humanity. And as investors, as individuals, we really need to approach this transformation with a healthy dose of discernment and wisdom. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of innovation, undoubtedly, but we have to remember the timeless principles of self-control, of humility, of stewardship, of love. And this year, we can embrace the opportunities that AI presents, but we can still stay grounded in our values. So let's ensure that even in a world dominated by AI, our decisions will reflect the best of what makes us human. And that's just something to think about. Well, friends, thank you again for joining me today and being a part of the Follow the Money community. If you'd like to dive deeper into these topics and access all of our premium resources, including trading ideas, investing ideas, and even what I'm buying and selling in real time, be sure to visit followthemoney.com. Check out our plans and pricing. We'd love to have you here as a member. And remember, when you want the truth about the global economy, just follow the money. Have a safe and prosperous week, and I'll look forward to seeing you right back here next time. Until then, God bless.
Follow the Money podcast is strictly for informational and educational purposes. It should not be construed as specific investment advice. The views and opinions of our guests and sponsors, including Tom Cloud, are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of FTMDaily.com or Robinson Media Group, LLC. Jerry Robinson does hold an insurance license and at times may offer consulting on life insurance and fixed retirement income products. Follow-up, individualized responses to email or phone requests that involve the rendering of personalized investment advice for compensation will not be made absent compliance with state investment advisor registration requirements or an applicable exemption or exclusion and applicable insurance regulations. Past performance is not indicative of future results. You should be aware of the real risk of loss in following any strategy or investment discussed on the podcast. Remember, never do your financial planning through podcast or radio. It's your money. Be wise. Do your due diligence and always consult a trusted financial professional before making any financial decisions.